Hey, this is CB Smollett, and welcome to Mental Junk Food, where we talk about all things comics, sci-fi, horror, fantasy, pop culture, and everything in between. And today we're going to be talking about Bryan Singer of the X-Men movie fame, how he banned comic books on the set of the X-Men. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I guess before we get started, I just want to mention that this article comes to you from CBR.com, and you can read the article in full there, as well as whatever other articles that they got as they happen. So anyway, here's the gist of it, and let me read you a bit of this before I give you my opinion or my insight for whatever it's worth. Bryan Singer didn't allow comic books to be brought onto the set of the 2000 X-Men film. Speaking with MTV News to promote his new film, The Front Runner, Hugh Jackman discussed auditioning for the role of Wolverine and meeting Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, who was an associate producer on X-Men. However, the actor recalled that the comics that inspired the film weren't, let me highlight this, weren't permitted on set. And a quote of a quote here. Bryan Singer had this thing that people would think he really wanted to take the comic book characters seriously as real three-dimensional characters, Jackman said. That people who don't understand these comics might think that they're two-dimensional, so no one was allowed comics. It was contraband. I never read X-Men, so people were slipping them under my door, and I'm reading. I'm looking at these things going, these are brilliant. Look at the physicality. Jackman also recounted how he would often end up in Feige's office, and Feige would tell him which stories and comics to read. Okay, so that's pretty much, well, I guess that's the whole article, honestly. But again, head over to cbr.com to read, this article and many others like it. So here's my thoughts on this. This is my opinion. First of all, I think before I get into the bashing of this whole policy, I do think that Bryan Singer should get a little bit of praise for basically helping make Marvel movies popular in cinema. Because if you remember, back in 2000, there wasn't as many Marvel movies as there are now. And at that time, Fox Studios was kind of leading the way with making Marvel movies. And, you had another studio that was doing Spider-Man and stuff like that. And Marvel Studios itself was getting off to a slow start, and it was a healthy start, and it kind of shows, to where Marvel Studios dominates all now. But Bryan Singer, he helped to, I really do believe that he does deserve some credit as far as helping to launch Marvel into cinema. Now, with that said, here's my issue with this article. Not so much the article. Here's my issue with the content of this article. The director of the X-Men movie, Bryan Singer, basically banning X-Men comics or X-Men related comics on the set. You know, the, these comics are not comics. These movies are supposed to be adaptations of the comic. How can you understand the character or the characters and their motivations? And honestly, pretty much every single X-Men movie up to this point has been nothing more than a Wolverine movie, with the X-Men being nothing more than a supporting cast for the most part. With the exception, I think of the First Class movies, the kind of like I guess you would call it a soft reboot, where they kind of go back in like the 1960s. Those were a little bit more closer, I guess, to the X-Men. Maybe that's just my opinion. But anyway, the overwhelming majority of the X-Men movies have basically been Wolverine movies. And, that being the case, I am really happy and thrilled that somebody, slipped Hugh Jackman some, hopefully, some Wolverine comics and some X-Men comics underneath his door so he can understand what the heck the deal is with this character, kind of get an idea. And, the thing that I think is interesting, you got this director, Bryan Singer, and he's not allowing anyone to bring any type of X-Men paraphernalia onto the set. You got the director doing this, and then you got where's it at? Kevin Feige. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. You got the producer, one of the architects of the Marvel universe in cinema. He's telling Hugh Jackman what stories and comics to read. So what time the director's saying no X-Men comics, you got the producer saying, "Hey, Hugh Jackman, this is what you need to read. You might want to check out some Marvel Comics presents Weapon X. And kind of get an idea about the Weapon X program. You may want to read some early issues of like Chris Claremont and John Burns' run on the X-Men, where the character kind of gets introduced into the X-Men. You may want to read Larry Hama's take on Wolverine. So yeah, I'm happy that Kevin Feige did that. But I really disagree with Bryan Singer, outlawing X-Men comics on the set. I think it kind of shows a disdain, a bitter taste, and really a lack of understanding of the comic book medium as a whole from people in Hollywood. It's just, I don't know. It reminds me of, like, for example, the first major Incredible Hulk movie that came out. I can't remember the director's name. That's probably not good to be making a video with poor research. he was he was an Asian director. I can't remember his name. But anyway, he tried to make the Incredible Hulk movie kind of comic booky. And in a sense, it made it a little bit hokey, actually. And also, they deviated from the origin of the Incredible Hulk in his, first movie, because I don't know why. I think, people in Hollywood, it's hard for them to swallow superheroes. They want to make superheroes as extremely believable as possible. But the problem that you get into when you try to do that is you suck the life out of what made comics fun in the first place. Comic books, the medium, as it has been in the last 40 or 50 or 60 years, is basically it is this generation and the generations that come before us. It is this point in history. It is our version of like the Roman gods or the Greek gods or the Egyptian gods and stuff like that. What the difference is, we don't worship these comic books and these comic book characters. We may adore them. We may have attachments to them, but as far as like putting them on the pedestal where we bow down and pray to them, no, we don't do that. But the point is, that tradition from Roman times, from Greek times, and beyond is carried on today in a lot of the tales that's told in Marvel. And part of the fun of what makes Marvel Comics is it's stuff that's larger than life. But a lot of these Hollywood directors have a really nasty habit, dirty habit, a dumb habit, an ignorant habit of trying to make, I guess, superhero movies as super, super, super realistically as possible. And I get it, that there is room to explain things and to make things more plausible and more believable. And I believe that the way that Marvel Studios has done everything from Thor, Avengers, Iron Man, you name it, they've done a great job of sticking with the core essence of what makes those characters, what makes them them, while also sticking to the origin story overall of all these books, or at least in spirit, as close as you can get it, while also making things more plausible and more believable in a modern setting. Bryan Singer did not accomplish this. Instead, I kind of feel like he dumbed down some things in X-Men and also rushed some things. He has a really bad habit, and a lot of the directors and stuff around him that came after really rushed a lot of stuff in the X-Men movies. And it's a great franchise. The comic books used to sell by the buttload. For lack of a better phrase, I mean, the X-Men was the hottest thing that Marvel had, and so anything had an X in front of it, X-Force, I don't know, the Externals, X-Men, Cable, X-Factor, Uncanny X-Men, the New Mutants, Generation X, Wolverine. There's probably a couple more that I'm missing. But anyway, if it was X-Men related, it sold. And how can you mess that up, Bryan Singer? Well, I can tell you how you do it. I can tell you how you mess that up and not make X-Men as big as they could have been in cinema. Well, the first thing you do is basically don't allow comic books to be brought onto the set. Don't do that. That's a good first step. And then rush every single cool storyline that the X-Men ever done and botch it. They took Apocalypse storyline, they rushed that. They took Days of the Future Past and they rushed it. They took the Dark Phoenix saga and they rushed that. I mean, one thing after another, and it's just butchered a lot of these beloved X-Men storylines, almost like for a cheap pop and for a lack of vision, really. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point. So that's how I feel about it. I'm happy that Marvel now owns Fox. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the X-Men. I'm excited to see what they do with the X-Men and the other properties that Marvel has acquired, the movie rights back to. And, maybe now, we're going to see a lot more X-themed movies. You know what I mean? Which, here toward the end, Fox was moving more in that direction. You might have seen the X-Force movie. They was already doing New Mutants. We did get to see Deadpool. So they was getting that direction, but it was kind of, they waited a bit late, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, Fox has milked the Wolverine cash cow to death now. So I'm curious of where Marvel Studios goes with it. I disagree with Bryan Singer banning comic books on the set of the X-Men movies. So I'd like to know what you think in the comments section down below. Do you agree with Bryan Singer banning the comic books for whatever the reason was? Because it still doesn't make much sense to me. Or do you kind of see more my side of things? And, just let me know in the comments section down below. And listen, if you didn't know, if this thing will actually pop up, I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers. So if you could humor me, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button because it helps my videos get seen, more far and wide. As always, this is CV Smallwood, and I will see you in the next video.